4 months after leaving me for a Tesla guy because I wasn't successful enough, my ex sat down and said, "I'm pregnant, and my family thinks you should step up. Please help." I just listened quietly. She still didn't know who actually owned the plaza she was standing in. I'm 28, and I'm dealing with a situation that's got me questioning everything I thought I knew about relationships and what people actually value in them. I was with Cassidy for 16 months. Met her through mutual friends. Really thought we had something solid. She's 26, works in social media marketing, smart and funny, and the type of person who lights up when she talks about things she's passionate about. Here's the thing though, I live pretty modestly despite doing well for myself. I drive a 2019 Toyota Camry, live in a studio apartment downtown, shop at Target, that kind of stuff. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. It's not that I can't afford better, I just don't see the point in flashy displays of wealth. I'd rather invest my money than wear it. Cassidy started having issues with this around the 1-year mark. She'd make comments about how we never went to nice restaurants, how embarrassing it was when her friends' boyfriends drove BMWs and took them on expensive vacations. I tried to explain that I preferred experiences over things, that money wasn't everything, but she'd just roll her eyes and say I didn't understand what it meant to invest in our relationship. The breaking point came 4 months ago when she sat me down and said she needed to be honest about something. She'd been thinking about our future, and she didn't see how we could build the life she wanted together. "I need someone who can provide the lifestyle I want," she said. "Not just scraping by, but actually having nice things, being able to travel, living somewhere I'm not embarrassed to bring people." I told her I wasn't scraping by, that I was financially secure, but she cut me off. "Trent, you drive a 4-year-old Toyota and live in 600 square feet. I've seen your apartment. I know what you make. I need someone who's actually successful, not just getting by." That hurt, obviously, but what hurt more was realizing she'd been evaluating our relationship based on external markers instead of how we actually were together. We had great conversations, laughed constantly, supported each other through stressful times, but apparently that didn't matter if I wasn't driving the right car. 2 weeks later, she started dating Preston. Guy she'd met at some networking event, drove a Tesla, lived in a penthouse, took her to all the places she'd been wanting to go. She posted about it constantly, the fancy dinners, weekend trips, designer bags he'd buy her. I'm not gonna lie, it messed me up for a while. I spent a lot of time wondering if I'd been too stubborn, if I should have been more willing to show off what I had. But after a few months of therapy and really thinking about it, I realized something important. If someone needs you to prove your worth through material things, they're not actually choosing you. They're choosing your lifestyle. I spent the last 4 months working on myself, reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during the relationship, threw myself into my business, started dating again. I felt like I was finally in a good place. So anyway, something happened today that's got me questioning everything I thought I knew about that whole situation. Not sure if I'm being petty or just protecting myself, but I need some outside perspective before I make any decisions. Without going into too much detail yet, let's just say Cassidy found out some information about my financial situation that she didn't have before, and now she's very interested in having a conversation about what went wrong between us. Part of me wants to hear her out, because I did care about her and there were genuinely good parts of our relationship. But another part of me feels like if someone rejects you based on what they think your financial situation is, their sudden interest when that changes tells you everything you need to know about their priorities. Eta for not wanting to give someone a second chance when they made it clear that money was more important to them than actually being with me. Update 1. I wasn't planning to post an update this soon, but the situation escalated in a way I wasn't expecting, and I need to process what happened. Tuesday afternoon, Cassidy showed up at my work. Said she'd left something in my car back when we were dating and wanted to pick it up. I thought it was weird timing, 4 months later, but whatever. I told her to meet me at the shop. Here's what I haven't mentioned before. When I said I work in automotive, I wasn't exactly lying, but I wasn't telling the whole story either. I don't just work at an auto shop. I own Morrison Plaza, 6 businesses including the auto repair shop, a detail center, a parts store, a cafe, a fitness studio, and a small office complex. I started the auto shop when I was 22, with money I'd saved from working construction through college. Turned out I had a good eye for location and business development. The plaza generates more in a month than most people make in a year. But I've always kept that information private because I wanted to know people were interested in me, not my bank account. So Cassidy pulls up Tuesday expecting to find me in coveralls changing oil, and instead she walks into a full business operation. My business manager Idris was there going over quarterly reports. There's signage everywhere with my name on it, and I'm clearly not just an employee. The look on her face when she realized what she was seeing. I've never seen someone's entire worldview shift that fast. "You own this place?" she asked, looking around like she was seeing a mirage. "Own the whole plaza, actually," I said, because there was no point in downplaying it anymore. That's when she really lost it. Started asking why I'd never told her, why I lived like I was broke when I clearly wasn't, how we could have had everything if she'd just known. "Cassidy, you left me because you thought I was poor. Do you see how that's the problem here? But you let me think you were struggling. We could have traveled, could have lived somewhere nice, could have had the life I wanted. You mean the life you ended up having with Preston?" She got quiet then. "That's different." "How is it different?" "Because Preston was honest about what he could provide." I stared at her for a long moment, trying to process that logic. "You're upset with me for not advertising my wealth, but you left me for someone who did advertise his?" That's when she started crying. Said she'd made a terrible mistake, that she'd been young and stupid and focused on the wrong things. Said if she'd known the truth, she never would have left, and that right there was the moment I understood exactly who I'd been dating for 16 months. "Cassidy, you didn't want me when you thought I was poor. That tells me everything I need to know about what you actually value. It's not about the money. It's entirely about the money. 4 months ago, you told me I wasn't successful enough for the life you wanted. Today, you find out I am successful and suddenly you made a terrible mistake. If I'd been genuinely poor, would you be here right now?" She couldn't answer that. My business manager was trying to pretend he wasn't hearing this whole conversation, but I could see him taking notes for what I assume will be an epic story to tell his wife later. The worst part was watching her try to rewrite history in real time. Suddenly, our relationship had been perfect except for the financial stress. Suddenly, she'd always known we were meant to be together. Suddenly, leaving me had been about fear of commitment, not about money. But I remembered exactly what she'd said 4 months ago. I remembered how she'd looked at me like I was disappointing her just by existing in my studio apartment with my 4-year-old car. "I need to think about this," I told her, which was the kindest way I could find to say absolutely not. She left her number and asked me to call her when I was ready to talk about giving us another chance. I haven't called. Here's what I keep coming back to. If someone's feelings about you change based on your bank account, they were never really about you in the first place. She didn't fall back in love with me. She fell in love with the lifestyle she thought she'd missed out on. My friend Kale thinks I should hear her out, says people can change, and maybe she learned something from dating Preston. But I can't get past the timing. It wasn't seeing me again that made her realize she missed me. It was seeing my financial statements. Edit. A lot of people are asking about Preston. Honestly, I don't know what happened there. Cassidy didn't offer details and I didn't ask. But if she's suddenly wanting to reconnect with me, I'm guessing that situation didn't work out the way she hoped. Edit 2. To those saying I should have been more transparent about my finances, maybe, but I've learned that leading with money attracts the wrong kind of attention. I wanted someone to choose me for who I am, not what I have. Edit 3. Someone asked if I'm going to change how I present myself going forward. Probably not. The right person will care about my character first, my bank account second. Cassidy had it backwards. Update 2. I thought the story was over after my last update. I was wrong. Cassidy called me last Thursday night. Said she had something important to tell me and could we please meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She looked different when I saw her, nervous in a way I'd never seen before. We made small talk for a few minutes before she dropped the bomb. "I'm pregnant." My first thought was wondering why she was telling me this, since we haven't been together in 4 months and hadn't been intimate for longer than that before the breakup. "Congratulations," I said. "Is Preston excited?" That's when her face crumpled. "Preston's gone. When I told him about the baby, he just disappeared. Turned out he was living on maxed-out credit cards and his Tesla was leased. When reality hit, he bailed. I felt bad for her, genuinely. Nobody deserves to be abandoned when they're pregnant. But I still didn't understand why she was telling me. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Trent, I know this is a lot to ask, but I keep thinking about what you said about building a life together. About experiences over things. I was wrong to leave you, and I'm hoping maybe we could try again. The three of us." It took me a minute to process what she was suggesting. "Cassidy, are you asking me to help you raise Preston's baby? I'm asking the man I love to help me raise our child. Our child. I'm not the father. Not biologically, no, but you could be. We could be a family. You said yourself that you have the means to provide, and I know now that stuff doesn't matter as much as I thought it did." I stared at her across the table, trying to understand how we'd gotten to this moment. "Let me get this straight. You left me because you didn't think I could provide the lifestyle you wanted. Now you want me to help raise another man's child because you found out I actually can provide that lifestyle? It's not about the money. Cassidy, everything with you is about money. 4 months ago, you told me I wasn't successful enough. 2 weeks ago, you wanted me back because you found out I was more successful than you thought. Now you want me to financially support you and a baby that isn't mine because the actual father can't afford to." She started crying then. Said I was being cruel, that she'd learned from her mistakes, that she genuinely wanted to build something real with me. "If money doesn't matter to you now," I said, "then you should be fine raising this baby on your own. You have a good job, supportive family. You don't need me. But I want you. I want us. You want my bank account and the security it represents. If I'd stayed the person you thought I was, modest income, studio apartment, old car, would you be here asking me to raise Preston's baby?" She couldn't answer that either. The conversation got worse from there. She started talking about how we'd been so good together, how she'd made a mistake leaving, how this could be our chance to start fresh. But every argument she made came back to stability, security, being able to provide. Then she said something that really pissed me off. "My family thinks you should step up. They said if you really care about me, you'd want to help, especially since you have the means." Your family knows about this conversation? They know I'm pregnant, and they know Preston left. They think you'd be a good father. So now I'm not just dealing with Cassidy's manipulation, but family pressure too. Like I'm somehow obligated to rescue her because I happen to be financially stable. I told her I needed time to think, but honestly, I don't need time. I need her to understand that you can't build a relationship on financial convenience. The most frustrating part is that there's a small part of me that genuinely cares about her and feels terrible that she's in this situation. We did have good times together, and she's going to be a single mom, which is never easy. But I keep coming back to the same question. If I were actually poor, would she be here? And the answer is obviously no. My friend Silas thinks I should just block her number and move on. Says she's trying to manipulate me using guilt and family pressure. But it's harder than that when you have history with someone and they're in genuine trouble. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh. But I can't shake the feeling that if I say yes to this, I'll be setting a precedent where she gets to leave me when someone better comes along, then return when she needs something. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I think she's genuinely changed. Honestly, I think she's genuinely scared, but being scared doesn't automatically make someone a better partner. Edit 2. To those saying I should help because it's the right thing to do, I disagree. The right thing is for the baby's father to step up. I'm not responsible for cleaning up Preston's mess. Edit 3. Someone pointed out that her family pressuring me to step up is pretty telling about their values too. They see a wealthy guy and think he should fix their daughter's problems. That's not how relationships work. Final update. I've gotten a lot of messages asking for an update, and honestly, I wanted to close the loop on this because the conversation I had with Cassidy taught me something important about boundaries and what I actually want in a relationship. After my last post, I spent about a week really thinking about the situation. Not just the pregnancy and her request, but the whole pattern of how she'd treated me from the beginning. I talked to my therapist about it, talked to friends, even called my mom for perspective. Everyone had different opinions, but the question my therapist asked really stuck with me. If Cassidy had never found out about your wealth, what do you think would have happened? And the answer was obvious. She would have stayed with Preston until he couldn't provide what she wanted anymore, then moved on to someone else. I would never have heard from her again. That realization made the whole situation clear for me. Last week, I asked Cassidy to meet me for coffee one more time. I wanted to have a final conversation where I could be completely honest about where I stood. I've been thinking about what you asked, I told her, and I need you to understand something about why my answer is no. She immediately started to interrupt, but I kept going. You left me because you thought I was poor. You came back because you found out I wasn't. Now you want me to help raise another man's child because I have the financial means to support all of us. Do you see the pattern here? Trent, I made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose someone based on what you thought he could provide materially. When that didn't work out, you came back to me not because you missed me, but because you realized I could provide what you thought he could. She started crying then, saying she'd learned from her mistakes, that she understood now that money wasn't the most important thing. If money doesn't matter to you now, I said, then prove it. Figure out how to handle this situation without using me as your financial safety net. That's when she got angry. I'm offering you a chance to be a father, to build a family with me. Why can't you see that as a gift instead of some kind of burden? Because you're not offering me a chance to be a father. You're asking me to be a provider. There's a difference. What would you have me do? Raise this baby alone? Yes, if that's what it takes. You're a capable adult with a good job and a supportive family. You don't need me, you want me because it would be easier. The conversation went on for about another hour, with her cycling through different approaches, guilt, manipulation, appeals to what we used to have together. But I kept coming back to the same point. She'd shown me exactly how she valued me, and it was based entirely on what I could provide rather than who I was. I won't be anyone's backup plan, I told her finally. Not when you thought I was poor, and not now that you know I'm not. She left angry, saying I was heartless and selfish and that I'd regret missing out on our chance at happiness. But here's what I've realized. Real love doesn't change based on circumstances. If someone genuinely wants to be with you, they don't leave when things get hard or when someone more appealing comes along. They don't come back only when they need something. The right person will choose you when you're driving a beat-up car and living in a studio apartment. They'll choose you for who you are, not what you can provide. I've started dating again. Someone I met through mutual friends who has no idea about my financial situation and seems genuinely interested in getting to know me as a person. We split dinner bills. She drives a car older than mine, and when I told her I worked in automotive, she didn't ask follow-up questions about my income potential. It's refreshing to be with someone who's interested in my thoughts, my sense of humor, my goals, not my ability to fund a lifestyle. Cassidy texted me last week to say she's moving back to her hometown to be closer to family while she figures things out. I wished her well and meant it. I hope she finds what she's looking for, and I hope the baby is healthy and loved. But I'm glad I stuck to my boundaries. I'm glad I chose self-respect over guilt, and I'm glad I learned the difference between being wanted and being needed for the wrong reasons. 6 months ago, I thought maybe I was too stubborn about money, too private about my success. Now I understand that those things weren't flaws, they were filters. The right person doesn't need to see your bank account to decide you're worth their time. Edit. A lot of people have asked what I learned from this whole experience. Mainly that authenticity attracts authenticity. When you're honest about who you are, not just the successful parts, but the whole person, you find people who want the whole person, not just the successful parts. Edit 2. To those asking if I feel bad about the baby, of course I do. But being concerned about a child's welfare doesn't mean I'm obligated to become that child's stepfather just because I have the financial means to help. Edit 3. 6 months update since people keep asking. Heard through mutual friends that Cassidy's back with her college ex who apparently got his life together recently. Code for inherited money from grandparents. Some people never learn that chasing lifestyle over character always ends the same way. Meanwhile, I'm with someone who insists on splitting dinner checks and drives a car older than mine. Funny how the real thing feels completely different. Edit 4. Final thought. I used to think hiding my wealth was about protecting myself from gold diggers. Now I understand it's about finding someone who values what actually matters. Money is a tool, not a measure of worth. The person who understands that difference is the person worth building something real with.